I'm really excited to go on this cruise because I think it'll be much better than just sitting in a classroom all day. It's hands-on, and I'll get a lot more experience out of it.
I hope to be part of the group of people that help push this research forward.
What I hope to get out of this project is to learn more about marine animals as well as learning about the ocean itself.
To get a better understanding of how life in the ocean works.
What I'm looking to get out of this trip is to learn more about the patterns of all these whales.
An understanding of how marine animals interact with one another and how they affect our lives.
I'm looking forward to broadening my horizons as far as what I'm studying.
And not everybody gets an opportunity to go out on a research vessel. It's important to share these experiences with the broader public, especially from a student perspective.
If I can inspire a flicker of interest in something that I'm already interested in, I've done the basic job of passing on a torch to a younger generation.
Not everyone gets a chance to be here at sea on a research cruise, but through the Inner Space Center, now we can bring you with us. Welcome aboard. Hi everybody. Welcome to Endeavor Live. My name is Holly Morin and I am a marine biologist with the Inner Space Center, and I will be your host today as we learn about the at-sea research being conducted by a group of oceanographers that are actually getting ready to gear up and go out the door here. And it's 8 URI Honors students on board the research vessel, or RV Endeavor. We're actually going to be chatting with one of those students, Lizzy Loggin, in just a few moments. But at first, we're currently located about 20 miles south of Martha's Vineyard, about 40 miles south of Block Island. We're pulling in our gear right now because we actually just got word from some aerial surveys that are happening above that are happening in these areas, that there are right whales actually that have been sighted a little bit more southwest of where we're currently located. And so that's what we're actually looking for today, is some right whales. The seas have calmed. I think Lizzy will be able to attest to it, is that we had some rough weather, some pretty windy days, but the winds have quieted, the seas have quieted, so this is a great day for marine mammal surveys. That's one of the things the students on board that they're working with. They're also deploying a lot of instruments, and we actually deployed, I think, 4 different instruments this morning before breakfast. So they were putting bongo nets in the water. Those are 2 nets side by side that are very fine mesh. And they're towing those to look for small critters that the whales and other animals are feeding on. They also put a Niskin bottle in the water, and that basically is a tube that has 2 open ends that will close shut when it's told to, and they could take a very discrete water sample. We had our echo sounders in the water, which is using underwater sound to visualize what could be in the water column, looking at those layers and looking for congregations of animals, so that plankton again that we were sampling with the net. And then they've been up on the top side on the flying bridge, using the big eyes to look for whales on the surface. These are giant binoculars that allow them to actually see very far, all the way out to the horizon. So if we see a spout or a blow from a whale, or even a dorsal fin far away, that's how they'll be able to sight it. I want to encourage you all to ask questions today as they come up. We have Gwen, who is here with us today on camera, and she'll be relaying your questions to us here on board the vessel. This is a very interactive broadcast. We're actually using something called telepresence today to connect with you. If you've used FaceTime or if you've used Skype before, same type of idea. It's the same technology they used when communicating with astronauts when they were in the space shuttles or in outer space. And so what makes the IAC unique is that we can actually connect with multiple ships using telepresence and stream their data, their audio and visual data, in real time. So again, multiple feeds coming in and multiple feeds going back out. But to kick things off, I think what we're going to start off with is a really short video to introduce you to our students that are on board the vessel today and get an idea of what they were excited for with this research cruise and the work that they would be doing.
Personally, I think it's really important to communicate all of our findings so everyone has the same access to the same information and knowledge that we do.
Because as a student studying to become a scientist, I want to know what it takes to be a scientist out at sea.
I'm so excited to be participating in this cruise, actually, because I'm really curious about the whales and how their environment works.
I joined this class by accident, but I'm really happy I'm sticking with it because I've been exposed to so many different research methods and opportunities that I normally wouldn't have gotten.
Being from the Cape, I've heard about right whales my whole life, and I'm interested in learning more.
Because I'm really interested in the ocean, mainly because I'm from an island. I'm from Dominican Republic.
There's so many people out there who don't know what they want to do, and if I can inspire a flicker of interest in something that I'm already interested in, I think I've done the basic job of passing on a torch to a younger generation.
I think it's important to communicate science to the general public because we don't always understand how it affects our lives every single day.
To get people inspired and motivated into learning what's out there.
Because I want to learn about how the changing oceanographic landscape is affecting the whale's pattern and behavior.
To have the opportunity to learn about the preservation of endangered whales.
I was born in Israel and I moved here when I was 6 years old. And both my parents have a biology background, so that's why I became really interested in sciences.
As someone studying civil engineering, I'm looking forward to broadening my horizons as far as what I'm studying, what I'm researching. Instead of just concrete, now I get to study whales and see how statistics changes with that.
I'm a very outgoing person. I strive to be the best at anything I can try or be, you know?
There's a real value in communicating science to the public because not many people get the opportunity like we do. So being able to broadcast it to a huge audience is something that we're able to give to you.
What motivated me to join this class was that I had to fulfill my honors requirement, but what kept me in the class was the prospect of this week-long cruise out on the ocean, and I love boats, and that really got me excited for it.
Hi everybody, welcome back. And so we have Lizzy Loggin with us now, and she is a junior marine biology major at the University of Rhode Island. Lizzy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you interested in coming out on the endeavor and participating in this class? I don't think signing up for a research cruise and an experience like this is something that undergraduates or most students in general get an opportunity to take part in. So why don't you share a little bit with us about that?
Okay, so my passion for marine biology actually came from my teacher back in high school. I took an honors marine bio class, and she was just a very passionate person, and she kind of led that on to me. And I actually didn't know about this class. It was probably a week or two into the semester, and I got an email and a phone call from my professor, Dr. Wishner, and she told me about this class and the cruise and asked me if I would be interested in joining, and I'm just really thankful that that invitation was extended out to me.
And have you worked in Dr. Wishner's lab before or had her as a professor before?
No, I haven't.
So you just got the lucky call, which is absolutely fantastic. Awesome, thanks. That's great. So I know this morning, we were very busy this morning before breakfast, and Lizzy was on deck. So the way that the students have been operating is that they're in watch teams. So it's they're a group of 8 students, and they're split into 2 watches, 4 students on each team. And they're rotating every 4 hours between activities on this main deck area and outside, and then being up top looking and scanning for marine mammals. So Lizzy's group got the early morning call to be up at 7 a.m. To be ready to go out on deck work. And so why don't you tell us about some of the things that you guys were working on this morning?
This morning we actually deployed and recovered a bongo net. I think you went into that a little bit, and that's just, bongo net has 2 nets in it, each have different size filters, and it just is, we launch them and it's supposed to catch smaller organisms like plankton, zooplankton, copepods, and so we had to bring that back up and then collect those water samples so that we could actually look at them at the microscopes we do have inside the ship.
Was it hard? Is something, because I know there was, I believe it was you and Gwen and Gal that were out there helping out with the deployment of these nets, and there's an anchor on the bottom. Is it tricky to work around the lines? I know that you guys have to be very careful.
It is a little tricky. It was a lot smoother today just because the weather has calmed down a bit. The other days it was a bit rocky, but it's never too impossible. Everyone works as a team, which is really great. So it can be a little tricky with the gear that we have to wear. I know I have to double up on gloves because it's so cold, and that can mess with my dexterity. It's really hard to kind of get into the small places that you need to get into, but someone's always there to help if you're struggling, so it's really good. Yeah.
That's why we always have multiple people out there helping with the gear to make sure you have enough hands. I think the gear you're talking about in the sea state, the work always goes on no matter the weather. So we had high winds, we had some pretty significant waves happening the previous couple of days, but they're still out there. These students have been real troopers out there on the deck getting the work done. What other type of gear have you guys been wearing or working with?
We have to wear waterproof overalls, which can be pretty tricky to get on when you're already wearing your boots. We also have to wear helmets for safety purposes. Sometimes we have to wear thicker jackets. Some of them have life jackets integrated into them.
So those are the Mustang jackets?
Yeah, or sometimes you just have to wear a life jacket, but it's all about safety. So
Exactly, good, great. I want to remind everybody that if you have questions, you should have a little chat box that's underneath the video viewer on the screen through which that you're watching this interaction right now. And so you can type in those questions at any time. And again, Gwen is here waiting for you to get those questions relayed to her, and then she'll send them to us in a few moments. Whatever questions that we don't get, we will be answering online using the hashtag EndeavorLive. And those are through our Facebook or our Twitter feeds. We can post those answers, or if you have additional questions, you can ask them then as well. Just make sure you continue to use that hashtag so we can track them and find them. So Lizzy, what has it been like for you? I know you talked about, since you were a young age, looking at or being enthusiastic about marine science and really being inspired by one of your teachers, which I think is great considering how many school groups we have tuning in today, knowing the impact that these teachers have on their students. Is this what you expected it to be? Is it when you were like, I'm going to be a marine biologist when you were younger? Is this something you were anticipating?
Not necessarily. I was a bit naive. When I thought of marine biology, I just thought of scuba divers. I never really thought about going out to the open ocean. So this has been a crazy experience. It's been really good, and it's just nice to know that I can handle the weather, being on a ship, and being able to work with scientists and the crew in an efficient way in the conditions that a ship sets has been really just amazing.
Yeah, and you guys kind of have definitely run the gamut between what might be very challenging to today, which is a much calmer day. Do you think this is something that, as you continue your career as a marine scientist, that you could be back out on a research vessel doing more of this type of work?
Definitely, yeah, of course, yeah. I love it here. I don't want to go back on shore.
Do you want to stay maybe cold weather, or do you want to go somewhere warmer?
The cold weather actually hasn't bothered me as much. I know because we have the PPEs and all the foul weather gear. It hasn't been too bad, so I wouldn't mind staying up north.
There you go, perfect. I can see that Gwen is starting to write down some questions, which is absolutely fantastic. So keep those questions cranking to us, and we'll get to them shortly. One last question for you, Lizzy. What has your day-to-day routine been like on the vessel? Is it, how are those early mornings getting up? And I know, what do you do after or on your downtime?
So we do have a pretty strict schedule just because we want to be out and deploying gear and looking for marine mammals as long as we can. But I think I mostly just wait for instructions from Dr. Wishner or any of the other scientists. Yeah.
And just go with that.
Yeah. Follow
yep,
the
that's
flow.
good. That's good. That's good protocol. Just follow what the scientists are telling you to do. All right, Gwen, so if we have that first question, we are ready for it.
Okay. Can you tell us any more about what the scientists are doing on board?
Can we tell you what the scientists are doing on board the vessel? Yeah, sure. So, Lizzy, do you want to talk about some of the things or the different, I know we talked about the bongo nets and we talked about the Niskin bottle. What are some of the other instruments that the scientists and you guys have been deploying and using?
So you did mention a Niskin bottle, and what that is just a really specialized container that can be sent out to any depth off the ship. It is wired to the ship so we can pull it back up, but when it reaches a certain depth that we want it to, we kind of just send a messenger. It's really old school. You kind of just put a weight onto the line and drop it and wait for it to hit the Niskin bottle so it'll close. Then we can recover it and it'll bring back a water sample at that certain depth, and that will be sent out to a lab to test salinity levels. And then we've also deployed an echo sounder, which uses sound waves to it just sends sound waves out, and if there's something in the water, those sound waves will bounce back and we'll be able to read those through the computer. And we've also sent out an XBT. You might have to help me with the acronym for that one.
It's an expendable bathothermograph.
Yeah, and that just gives us a live feed of the temperature of the water.
And ultimately what the scientists are trying to do is take all of these different ocean properties, or the data they're gathering in that sense, the plankton data, that's going to be through the bongo nets, the echo sounder outputs, as well as something called a video plankton recorder, which is essentially a giant microscope that they put out in the ocean that can take upwards of 60 frames a second. And it's taking pictures of those little critters so that you don't have to directly sample them using the net. So it's a really cool type of thing to see process all this data. It's crazy data points flashing all over over the screen. And they're putting all these pieces together with the whale sightings, and hopefully we'll have some today, so that they can see where the whales are occurring in using these other data to kind of predict that or put those together to see a pattern of sorts. So that's the ultimate goal of the work that the students and the scientists are conducting on board the vessel. Great question. Gwen, do you have another question for us?
Yes. From Coventry High School, have we seen any baby right whales yet?
So this is a question from Coventry High School, and they're asking if we've seen any calves, some right whale calves, as of yet on our trip.
Unfortunately, we haven't, but fingers crossed that we might see some today. I know that right whale calves have been the focus of a lot of marine mammal surveys just because we haven't seen any this year. But I think we're on the right track. We did get a phone call from one of the NOAA survey planes saying that they did see some whales around this area, so hopefully we can find some calves today.
Yeah, the right whales are critically endangered, and so there's less than 500 of them that are left in the population. So seeing any right whale and noting that location is very important to management and conservation decisions. Gwen, I think you've got another question there for us?
Yes. From Tara House School, have we seen any microplastics in our findings?
Okay, so this is a question about microplastics. Excellent question. And so with those bongo net toes, have we seen any microplastics as of yet, Lizzy?
I haven't seen any personally, but I do know that a few other students said they might have through the microscopes, but I haven't, not personally.
And I know that Ethan, one of our other students, has also said that when he was up on the big ice, he actually could see some trash that was floating along the surface as well. So I'm unaware right now of any microplastics, but that is a major concern, and a lot of researchers are looking at that when they're doing water quality surveys. So that's a great question, and completely excited that you guys are looking at that and examining that perhaps in your class. Gwen, ready for another question?
Yes. We have a good one here. How is the food on the ship?
How is the food on the ship? Lizzy, I'm going to let you tackle this one and talk about the food and what we're essentially being spoiled with on this vessel.
Yeah. The food's amazing. There's been just a plethora of options for each meal. The chefs take really good care of us. I don't know how I'm going to leave the ship when I go back to school because...
She's not going to go back to the cafeteria. She's
No.
already asked if she can just come down when she's on campus and walk down to the boat and come and have Mike and Dickie cook or something.
Definitely, yeah. I wish I could just take them back with me, but the food's been really, really good.
Excellent. Yeah, so that's one of the things is that when you're on board a vessel, the chef plays a very important role, because if you're not eating well, then your spirits are going to be down, especially when the weather's poor. It's actually important to make sure that you do keep food in your bellies if you're not quite feeling good, because that helps settle things out. So if you're getting fed really well, then everybody's happy. And, you know, there's stashes of ice cream and there's candy bars.
Yeah.
So it's a well-stocked ship for sure. Gwen, we're ready for another one.
Okay. Another from Terre Haute High School. Have we had any new discoveries or seen any new species?
So I believe this was Charahoe High School that's asking if we've seen any new species or made any new discoveries. Awesome question.
I'm not too sure about the species, but we have been able to, I guess, identify genuses, not as far as species, but maybe if we take a look, maybe later on we might be able to find something special. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, the samples are taking with the bongo nets are actually split so that half of it the students can look at on board here with scientists, but then the other half is preserved so that they can go back and quantify and take a much more detailed look at the sample itself. So I don't know if any new species have been found as of yet, but I'm sure if they did come out of these surveys, we'd be able to find out, and then it would get relayed. This is going to be our last question, Gwen.
Okay. How big is the Endeavor?
How big is the Endeavor? So the Endeavor is a pretty good-sized vessel. She's about 185 feet long. She can hold 12 crew and up to 18 scientists, so 30 people total on board. So some of the folks that you may have seen going behind right now, those are different crew and scientists, a lot of movement happening, so there's a lot of activity on the ship right now as we work to transit to a new location. But she's a pretty good-sized ship. I know some of the other vessels we work with through the Inner Space Center, the Okeanos or the EV Nautilus, they're a little over 200 feet long, about 211, I believe. So she's still a good class ship, and she gets a lot of work done. There's lots of different spaces, plenty of back deck space for gear to be deployed and winches. This is the main lab. Down below we are where some of the berths are, and then more forward is where the galley and the kitchen is, and then the bridge where the captain is. So lots of space actually, for plenty of room for us to move around. You guys were great today. Thank you for all of those awesome questions. Thank you, Lizzy, for joining us. Thank you, Gwen, for all of your help. Nod to Michael, who's another one of our students who's behind the camera helping out today. Again, if you have more questions, please make sure to put them in using the hashtag EndeavorLive. Follow along with the cruise through Facebook, Twitter, and our Instagram account. The students have been trying to take it over every day when they can to take pictures and share their experiences and post those things. We will be sailing all the way through Sunday, have 2 more Facebook Live events happening, one this evening and one tomorrow. We'll connect with other students and chat with them. So lots of opportunities. Also follow along with the Interspace Center's website. We have a variety of ships that will be coming online. The Okeanos kicks off their diving season starting next week. So lots of activity happening through the Interspace Center that we hope you tune into. Otherwise, thanks again so much, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Take it easy.